crowd. I try to take it easy here, but good afternoon, Rotarians. Oh, you're sounding better every day. Way to go. Welcome to the March 6th meeting of the Rotary Club of Des Moines. I'm Kevin Kassier, your president. Great to see a full crowd here today. First off, as always, thank you to Brittany Freund and Kayla Bruce for being our greeters today. And as I always say, please check out the sign up on either when you step outside or on our newsletter link. And you can sign up to be a greeter as well as a moment of inspiration. And we have one today. So I'd like to welcome up Randy Worth to lead us in a moment of inspiration, the Pledge of Allegiance, the four-way test, and then we'll have an opportunity to greet each other. So Randy, thank you for signing up.
Thank you, President Kevin. Some few weeks ago, one of the email business things that I take opened up with a quote from Michelangelo, and I thought, that's kind of odd, but I liked it, so I wrote it down. And then for our program today on art, I was even more amazed that I remember where I put it. You tell me later whether I shouldn't have or not. But I found some interesting facts on his life and his work. He was born in 1475, died in 1564, and your quick math tells you he was 88 years old in that era of time, which was extremely old, very rare. His rise to prominence came after a failed attempt to in fraud art fraud, there we go. He copied a piece of art, it got sold twice, and the guy that ended up with it, when he figured out that it was fraud, well, at first he got his money back, but then he invited him to come because he was a collector, he invited him to come and be with him and got him started on down the right path to prominence. Pieta, sculpture of Mary holding the dead body of Christ, is the only work he signed. And later in life, he regretted that he did that. He and Leonardo da Vinci did not like each other, and that's saying it politely. Each had a disdain for each other's view of art, and that's where they left it. He carved the David from a discarded block of marble. It took him 4 years. It also took him 4 years to paint the ceiling of the Sistine Chapel. He died very well off financially. Not only did he get paid well, but he was a real estate tycoon, but he invested in real estate. And so in today's terms, his estate would have been in the area of about $5 million. He's the only person, I think this is true, whose biography was written before he died. Kind of interesting. And his last work was never finished. He worked on it for 2 years. He ran out of quality stone, and he died a few days later. Perhaps his commitment to quality led to this quote, which I found. The greater danger for most of us lies not in setting our aim too high and falling short, but setting our aim too low and achieving our mark. It's a good thought for all of us, no matter what line of work we're in. Now the Pledge of Allegiance. I pledge allegiance to the flag
of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
And the four-way test.
Is the truth, is fair to all concerned, will build goodwill and better friendships, will be beneficial to all concerned.
Greet your fellow Rotarians.
I sent on some of my encouragements. All right. We got, once again, we have a number of guests today. Hello.
Great to see you.
We have a number of guests today, and I will introduce you, and I'd ask you to stand and remain standing, and then we will recognize you all at once. To lead it off, we're honored to have with us today Assistant District Governor John Rogers. Marnie Hockenberg has two guests with us today, Scott Trzynski, COO of Heartland Companies, and Deidre Williams with EMC Insurance. We have Kent Sovereign, former member of our club, welcome back, a guest of the club. We have Joyce Wheeler, wife of Todd and a member of the Waukee Club. And one of my pride and joys, Lauren Canyuk, my daughter with Mercer Advisors. Welcome, everybody. We also have a birthday in the club. Gordon Cheeseman, not here today, but please wish him a happy birthday if you want to reach out. We also have a Where in the World is Club number 27. There we go. And we have Sean and Sherry Mullen in Florida, looking nice. And Sean attended a fire suppression systems meeting there. Next would be Rotarians on the floor laughing, but unfortunately Skeet's under the weather today. So we'll jump right to Did You Know?
Yes.
We'll see. We'll see. This is a segment where y'all, for the new, for our prospective members and guests, this is a segment where we can learn a little bit and maybe add a little fun. And since we didn't have RFL today, I tried to add a little fun to this as well. So the topic today is the Olympics. And you're probably saying, why? The Olympics was last year. But I will tie Olympics into this meeting today. So here we go. There are only 5 countries that have been in every Summer Olympics. Yes, Greece is one of them. Can anyone name one of the other 4? Italy? Not correct, sir.
Norway.
Norway? Nope.
England?
England? Good, England. Carl. Great Britain was one of the 4. The other ones are France, Australia, and this makes sense, Switzerland. The gold medal has last time it was actually gold was in 1912. And you heard about the issue with the gold medals from the last Olympics in Paris. They started to tarnish. The French were a little embarrassed by that. Michael Phelps, more medals than the country of Mexico has had in the lifetime of the 28 medals he's had. The next closest was a Russian gymnast with 18, and third is a current Olympian still going, Katie Ledecky has 14. And now for a little fun that I've added here. So here are some odd Olympic events. In the early 1900s, pistol dueling. Yeah, wax bullets, and the people were protected with protective coats and masks. It didn't last long. Another one that didn't last long is live pigeon shooting in 1900. They got off of that pretty quick. Now here's one that I think they should bring back. Tug of war from 1900 to 1920. Would that not be fun to watch tug of war? And now my tie into the presentation today, art was an Olympic event. Did you know that, Kelly? See? All right, we're teaching the experts here. So between 1912 and 1948, medals were given out for art-inspired masterpieces. It ended in 1948, not because of lack of interest, but because you remember there was a period of time, and I think they're off that now, where if you were a professional, you couldn't compete. So they couldn't get non-professional artists. So who knows? It might come back. And for my last little fun tidbit, croquet was an event in 1900. It was notable for featuring some of the first women to compete in the Summer Olympics. However, it was a bit of a flop. There was only 10 competitors, all from France, and one spectator, an Englishman. So they decided maybe we'll pass on that. So that is your Did You Know today. And then now I am pleased to share another new member with you. We're getting more and more of those, so you'll hear more of this as we go. So it's my pleasure to introduce to you all Caleb Bruce. I met Caleb at Brown Winnick after doing some consulting there, and I am just really honored and excited to have him join us as a Rotarian. I think he's going to be great. So as you know, we asked 5 questions, and I'll share his answers to 4 of them, and then Caleb, I'll ask you to come up and give your own personal answer on the 5th one and share a few words, okay? Perfect. So the first question we asked Caleb was, you've got a free day, what will we find you doing? You can find me working in my yard or fishing. I enjoy working on small projects, small craftsman projects. I particularly enjoy vegetable and fruit gardening and make all of my best lunches for the season, for the winter season and the summer harvest with some of my items from my garden. Where in the world have you traveled and where would you like to go back? My wife and I enjoy traveling, and they've been around. They've been to Belize, Antarctica, Netherlands, Austria, Germany, Italy, Switzerland, Luxembourg, France, Belgium, Slovakia, Costa Rica, and Argentina. Wow. So been around. What are some of the best pieces of advice that you've gotten? And he says it's difficult to narrow it down to one, so I'll give you 2. First one is be as kind to and forgiving of yourself as you would be to your closest friend. And 2, slowly is the fastest way to get where you want to be. Good advice. What talent or skill do you possess that we might be surprised about? And he says, well, not really a talent, but he enjoys cold plunges and ice baths. So, whoa, you're a tough guy. I also make a pretty good raspberry jam from my garden. Caleb grew up in Creston, Iowa. He went to undergrad at Simpson, attended Drake University Law School. He wrestled in college, so again, tough guy, and still enjoys working out as part of his life. Prior to Brown Winnick, he spent a decade working at Principal Financial. His wife, Taylor, they have 2 dogs named Chompers and Olivia, and he says, don't let the names fool you regarding who's the better behaved. So I'm guessing that's Chompers. So please come up and share with us what you can't wait to tell your friends about the Rotary Club of Des Moines.
Well, usually when somebody someone calls me a tough guy, they're trying to pick a fight. I don't think that's what you're doing.
I'm just looking to have you as my wingman here.
Well, thanks for having me, and good afternoon, everyone. So in terms of what would I look forward to telling everyone about this club? I'll be brief. It's three things. First is the connections. So when you see me here, typically I'm here right at 11:30. Part of that is I like to eat lunch early, but I also love to have the opportunity to speak with everyone. I really enjoy the conversations, personally, professionally, what's going on that day with a person, that week, the month, the year. I really enjoy that. Second is the speakers. I've been incredibly impressed with the speakers that come to this meeting. Everyone seems to be engaged. I enjoy hearing the connection to the community. There's quite a bit of diversity and they're dynamic leaders that come to speak at this meeting, and I'm always really impressed with that conversation. And then thirdly and finally, the one that to me is the most prominent is what I call a learning getaway. I tend to be very pragmatic with my time. I'm the type of person who's eating lunch at their desk pretty much every day. I'm not a water cooler person. I'm not up talking to people. I don't do walks around the office. And sometimes when at a meeting, anything that's not a billable hour, I'm an attorney, I tend to think, should I do that? I will tell you, when I come to this meeting, it is such a breath of fresh air. The fact that I have the opportunity to step away, to learn, to hear new things, even if it isn't directly correlated to my life, that's really refreshing to me. So I'm very thankful for the club of that reminder and frankly the opportunity to be here and to listen to those activities. I also want to thank Kevin. Kevin is my sponsor. Met with me before, talked everything about the club, its background, strategic initiatives. I really appreciate that. And then of course Kitty, tremendously helpful. We met just recently, always answers my questions, make sure I have all the resources, so I'm very thankful. Thanks for the opportunity to speak, and I'll turn it back to you, Kevin.
And now I'll ask Sue Woody to come up to introduce our program today. Sue?
Thank you. Good afternoon. This is such a thrill to be able to introduce our speaker today. As a lifelong resident of Des Moines, I remember going to the Arts Center as a child, and I take great comfort when I go as an adult, and some of those pieces are the same pieces that I saw as a child. I might be different, but there's that ceramic clown that still scares me to this day. But we have such a wonderful public space that after all these years is still free and open to the public, and that is something to be so proud of. Not to mention that the building itself is a masterpiece, 3 masterpieces really, and all of the amazing contemporary art that is in it. So I would like to introduce our speaker. Dr. Kelly Baum is the John and Mary Papa John Director of the Des Moines Arts Center. Prior to joining the Arts Center in May of 2023, she worked for 23 years as a curator of modern and contemporary art at both civic and university art museums, including the Metropolitan Museum of Art, as well as the Museum of Fine Arts Houston, the Blanton Museum of Art at Houston, and the Fine Arts of Houston, and the Princeton Art Museum. She's got lots of great experience. And over the course of her 24 career, she's organized 20 exhibitions on artists such as Alice Neal and Wangiki Mutu, had to look that one up, and published 25 catalogs, articles, and essays. Dr. Baum holds a PhD from the University of Delaware and was a 2018 fellow at the Center for Curatorial Leadership. She's a member of the Association of Art Museum Directors and sits on the board of Humanities Iowa as well as Mainframe Studios. Welcome, Dr. Kelly Baum.
Good afternoon. I am so thrilled to be here. Thank you for the invitation. And Kevin, I'm going to rely on you. I know I have 20 minutes, so I'm going to rely on you to flag me when I can go on and on and on, especially when I'm talking about the Art Center. So I'll rely on you to help me keep track. So I am new to the Art Center. I'm also new to Iowa. I'm new to the Midwest, and I thought I would begin this presentation by introducing myself to all of you. As Sue mentioned, I've been working in the field of art for almost a quarter century. I have a BA, MA, and PhD in art history. Why art history, you might ask? What good is art to humanity? Well, art is just another way of narrating the history of humankind. You can learn and study the history of human struggle, human accomplishment, human ambition through art. Art is a lens onto history. It's also a lens onto society, politics, economics. There is a world, a universe of knowledge that is preserved in the smallest painting, the most modest seeming print. And I've been fascinated by art since I attended college in North Carolina in 1989. That was where I started visiting museums for the first time. So I was pricked by the bug. It was 1991, 92. I switched my major from speech communications to art history. That did not please my father, who was a very practical geologist working in oil and gas. But that switch in spring of 1992 really changed the course of my career, and I committed myself first to education. Decided I wanted to pursue an advanced degree, and I would teach at the college or university level. I hadn't ever considered a career in museums. I wasn't all that clear on what happened at museums. I would visit museums as a guest to study, to learn, but really the labor of making a museum run was not something that appealed to me because I had never really been introduced to it. So fast forward to the year 2000, I relocate to Houston while I'm finishing my dissertation, and I thought, you know, I'm out of scholarship money. I think I'll work at Starbucks, Barnes & Noble, while I'm finishing the degree, before I get that great tenure-track job. And I happened to have coffee with a colleague from graduate school, and so this is Houston, the year 2000, and I mentioned my plans to Kathleen, and she said, you know, Kelly, you should really consider applying to the Museum of Fine Arts Houston, which is one of the most extraordinary museums in the country. And she said they're looking for a curatorial assistant in modern and contemporary art. And I said, what is a curatorial assistant? I do not know what, I don't get it. And she said, well, it's an entry-level curatorial job working in the Department of 20th and 21st Century Art. Essentially, you assist the curator. And curator, the word curator comes from the Latin word to care. So a curator is essentially someone who cares for art, cares for the people who make art, and care for the people who view and study art. So I applied for a curatorial assistant position, Museum of Fine Arts Houston. There's an image here on the upper left. Huge campus now. This building was designed by Mies van der Rohe, who also designed more than one building in Des Moines. Interviewed for the job, and I got it. And I have to tell you, I loved it. I loved it because I had the chance to continue to study art history, to write, to read, to teach, but also to hold in my hand objects, to touch objects, and also to collaborate with artists. So this began a 25-year career working at museums. I was in Houston for 2 years. I moved to the Blanton Museum of Art at the University of Texas at Austin, assistant curator for 5 years. And then I was at the Princeton University Art Museum, and you see the building here in the lower left. I was that museum's first curator of modern and contemporary art. I worked there for 7 years, and then I made the leap to one of the greatest civic museums in the entire world, the Metropolitan Museum of Art, and you see the Met down here on the right. That was an extraordinary learning experience. I could not do the job of a director if I had not spent 8 years working at an enormous, bureaucratic, complicated, very political institution that is 4 blocks long, 4 blocks wide, staff of 2,000. You've been there, you know, it's pretty extraordinary. So this was like going back to school. I did my work as a curator, I wrote the books, I organized the exhibitions, I cultivated the donors, but I also paid attention in staff meetings. What's happening in the Buildings and Grounds Department? What's happening with finances? Is the endowment up or down? So I learned a lot, and I brought all of that knowledge with me to Des Moines. While I was at the Met, I organized some very exciting exhibitions. And exhibitions are essentially they are thoughts out loud. An exhibition is an idea that is turned into a display of objects organized for the benefit of guests. So every exhibition is an opportunity to teach. I loved organizing exhibitions at the Met because we had such an enormous audience. We had a huge stage. It was a great public venue. This was an exhibition, Delirious, Art of the Limits of Reason. I had great fun bringing this into being. Jack Whitten, a black sculptor born in Alabama, came up in New York. This was organized in 2018, opened just a few months, sadly, after Jack passed away. The Met has a beautiful garden on its roof, and I organized an exhibition with a Polish-born, Berlin-based artist, Alicia Quade. That's the skyline in the background. And then I also worked with the extraordinary Kenyan-born artist Wangechi Mutu on the Met's very first facade commission. So the facade of the Met is landmarked. And you'll see these niches and pedestals. That facade was finished, completed in the early 1900s. The museum had always intended to fill these niches with art. They ran out of money. And so those niches remained empty for 100 plus years. It was the great, brilliant idea of the Met's current director to fill them with art. And I worked with Wangechi over the course of 2 years to bring these incredible sculptures into being. Here they are. And then one of the greatest and most satisfying accomplishments of my career was this exhibition on Alice Neal, a portrait painter born in 1900, died in 1980. I began work on this exhibition with my colleague Randy Griffey, 2017, 2018. I was poised to bring all of my books and research home to write the catalog. March 1st, 2020, the city of New York shut down. And I was home for almost a year. And while I was home, I wrote the catalog for this extraordinary exhibition on an amazing female artist who fought for recognition her entire life. She painted pictures of the people she knew, her family, her neighbors, East Harlem, West Harlem, and it opened while we were still wearing masks in New York. There were lines snaking through the building to see this exhibition. And I met my first celebrities. They came to the Met, like Steve Martin, to see my Alice Neal exhibition. And after this exhibition opened, I thought to myself, you know, I could move on. I could do something else. I've checked a lot of boxes. I'm happy, I'm satisfied. And so what is next? It turned out the Des Moines Art Center was next. I had begun to ponder a career as a leader, museum leader, director, 2018, 2019. I attended the Center for Curatorial Leadership. And so I began to search for that next step. What would be the museum that I would lead? And the museum had to be right for me, but I also had to be right for that museum. And Lauren asked me while we were sitting down for lunch, what drew you to Iowa? Why are you in Iowa? Why are you here? I get that question all the time. And I want to tell everyone in this room, I am here because of the Des Moines Art Center. I am here because of the museum that many of you and people before you helped build over the last 75 years. I don't know if you know it, but you have an amazing institution. You have an amazing museum. I came from New York with my family. I know no one in Iowa. I know no one in the Midwest. I came here to work at this museum. So I think you all have something very proud. You have something to be very proud of. The museum was founded by a citizen of Des Moines, James Edmondson. There is a longer history to the Des Moines Art Center. It was preceded by the Fine Arts Association, which collected art, which held art classes, which served a vital public purpose. but it was a gift from James Edmondson during the Great Depression that would eventually lead to the creation of the Art Center. And this gift was made, interestingly, before there was an art center. So Edmondson, another citizen of Des Moines, Winnie Ewing Coffin, they both made gifts as part of their estate with the intent of triggering the creation of a museum. This gift from Edmondson, Coffin's gift, those were dares. They were dares to the city. I dare you to make a great art museum. Here's a gift, and do something great with it. So what is the Des Moines Art Center? We are an art museum. We hold a collection of 6,300 objects made between 1500 BC. We're not only a museum of modern and contemporary art. We actually have an extraordinary, small but extraordinary collection of historical art, trying to bring more of it out of the vault. We're the only art museum in the city of Des Moines, one of the few in the entire state. So we serve a purpose. We provide experiences that cannot be met anywhere else within a 2-3 hour drive. And that's all the more reason to get as much art out of our vaults as possible. So we're an art museum that cares for 6,300 objects. We are also an art school. The Art Center was founded to teach both the history of art, but also to teach the making of art. That is something that makes this institution very unique. Art making has always been embedded in the remit, the purpose of the Art Center. Many of you might have taken classes in our art school. Perhaps your kids, your grandkids have taken classes in our art school. It's a really extraordinary institution within the institution. I came across some notes, the minutes from the Art Center's original Buildings and Grounds Committee, circa 1940 to 1947, middle of the Second World War. They're planning the future identity of the Art Center. No less than Grant Wood advised on the design and layout of the Art Center's studio program. And as of 2009, we're also a sculpture park. I wanted to run through just a few of the highlights from our collection. The collection has a value. Every object in the collection is assigned a value for the purpose of insurance. Essentially, this collection is priceless and it's irreplaceable. And I can also tell you, having worked at 4 other museums around the country, including the Met, your museum owns works of art that the Met would give a pinky finger to own. And that is because of the generosity of many donors, but also because of the brilliance of many generations of museum directors and curators. The Art Center has a history of purchasing very well. We don't have an enormous collection, but we have an excellent collection. Albrecht Dürer, this is one of the oldest works in the collection. John Singer Sargent, objects in the Art Center's collection are requested for loan all the time. This is leaving for the Met, actually, in just a week or two. Henry Osawa Tanner, we were talking about Tanner earlier today, collected originally by the Des Moines Fine Arts Association. Tanner was one of the first professionally trained Black artists. Des Moines Association, Fine Arts Association, collected this work before museums, were strategically diversifying their collection. This has been requested for an exhibition, Peabody, Essex in Massachusetts. Constantine Brancusi, a masterpiece, absolute masterpiece of early 20th century modernism. Georgia O'Keeffe just came back from a long tour, Art Institute of Chicago. Matisse, we can hardly keep this painting on the wall. It's at the Met, it's in Paris, it's in Europe, it's back again. It'll stay for a while. Hopper, who doesn't love Hopper? This was the signature image for Hopper's survey at the Whitney Museum of American Art. This painting from the Art Center's collection defined Hopper's retrospective at the Museum of American Art in this country. That's how good the Art Center's collection is. 10,000 school kids come through the Art Center every year for free tours led by our staff and docents. And so they are learning from these and other objects. Francis Bacon, people will travel to the Art Center to see this incredible, terrifying work by Francis Bacon. Mark Rothko, some experimental art from the 60s and 80s. Some of you might remember when the Art Center purchased the Jeff Koons. Was a bit of a scandal written about in the Register. And then some recent acquisitions, Teresita Fernandez, Viñales Chasm 2022, Hugh Hayden American Gothic 2024. It's a riff on the famous Grant Wood painting. I happen to be organizing an exhibition with Hugh Hayden for 2027. So are buildings. One of the reasons why I'm here is the presence of an art school. It's the collection. I actually borrowed from the Art Center's collection for an exhibition I organized at the Met. I also love the architecture. Really, this museum is unlike any other. We have 3 extraordinary buildings, each of them very unique. 2 sit on the National Register of Historic Places, including this one by L.A.L. Saarinen. Our first building opened in 1948. My second favorite, the wing designed by the Chinese-American architect I.M. Pei, opened in 1968, also on the National Register of Historic Places. Pei won the Pritzker Prize, which is the highest honor an architect anywhere in the world can win. Pei, our Pei building, or our building was designed by a Pritzker award-winning architect. Hugh Hayden visited a few months ago, and he said this building, it felt to him like a cathedral, a spaceship and a cathedral. If you haven't been there recently, I encourage you to visit. And then our most recent building by Richard Meyer opened in 1985, not yet on the National Register of Historic Places, but close. He also won the Pritzker Prize. And then, of course, the John and Mary Papadon Sculpture Park, which was a joint effort in the early 2000s by the Papadon family, by the city, by the Art Center, by many, many donors and patrons. We co-managed the sculpture park with the city. And between the sculpture park and the Art Center, we welcome 300 to 350,000 guests a year, and we do not charge them a penny. We do not charge them a penny to walk into the Art Center. We do not charge them a penny to walk into the sculpture park. If you want to see some art in Chicago, it'll cost you $28. New York, $30. In Des Moines, it is free. We fundraise for those dollars because free is free for you, but it's not free for us. Many museums help fund their operating costs through admissions dollars. We do not want there to be a financial barrier to access, and so we work hard, tirelessly to preserve our free admission, and we have a lot of help, including from foundations like Principles. So what's on the horizon for the Art Center? New and upcoming exhibitions. We just opened Time Travelers, which is revolves around 2 works of art, one by an Argentinian-based artist, the other by a Vietnamese artist, Tuan Andrew Nguyen. You see a clip from Tuan's video. It's called The Boat People. Tuan will be speaking here in May. Exactly 50 years ago, around this time, Governor Robert Ray invited roughly 3,400 refugees from Southeast Asia into Iowa. I think this is the perfect time to have Tuan's video on view. And then this summer, I hope you'll all come to see Fairleigh Baez's exhibition. Fairleigh is a Dominican-born artist based in New York, the most beautiful, dynamic, almost operatic paintings and installations. Programs, we program almost every single day of the year, entirely Kids Day. If you have kids, grandkids, come and visit the Art Center on Saturday the 15th. We lead exhibition tours. Our docent volunteers, our curators, are often walking guests through the galleries. A film on Georgia O'Keeffe, Tuan's lecture, May 4th. We also host a number of programs, workshops, and classes through both our museum and learning program and our community access program, through which we partner with 35 different nonprofits and social service organizations to provide workshops to at-risk communities. And then a few of them here, Connecting Through Art, Deaf Community Art Gatherings, Drop-In Tours, DSM Speaks, LGBTQIA+ plus community art gatherings, teen academy, and of course, you can take an art class, and now you could go on and on. So preservation and beautification of our campus. We have more of this on the way. Over the last 2 years, we have invested quite a bit of time and money into our buildings, and that was thanks in part to our 75th, very successful 75th anniversary campaign. Some work done to our Saarinen building, but also to our IMP building. We had many fabulous partners in the city who helped us bring these projects to fruition. And now our strategic plan. So I was lucky enough to arrive just as one strategic plan was coming to an end, and another was in the works. We spent all of 2024 building together as a team a new 5-year strategic plan for the Art Center. There were almost 60 people involved in these discussions over the course of 12 months. I think I counted up the hours, it was dozens of hours. It was a lot of meetings and discussions. Almost every single staff person at the Art Center was involved, trustees, honorary trustees, and community partners. As a result of the strategic planning process, which felt a little like a 360, there's a lot of self-reflecting you do on your past, a lot of envisioning you do around your future, and as a result of this 12-month process, we realized what I think of as a beautiful and ambitious 5-year strategic plan. And it will guide our work moving forward. This strategic plan, the executive summary, is available on our website, and so you can download it and read it there. This strategic plan resulted in new purpose, mission, vision, and value statements. Our purpose, our why, maybe I'll read it instead of having to turn. The Des Moines Art Center catalyzes meaningful encounters with art and people to build creative, empathetic communities. The Des Moines Art Center equals art plus people. Our mission, the Des Moines Art Center stewards an exceptional collection of art and architecture, stimulates profound conversations about art, ideas, and society, and inspires the creativity of new generations of artists. Our vision, we aspire to serve as a public forum where artists, visitors, and staff exchange ideas about art, explore the transformative potential of human creativity, and address contemporary issues with the goal of bridging both distances and differences. We want to bridge distances, geographic distances, and differences. Our values, equity, respect, integrity, continuous reflection, collaboration. And these guide our interactions as colleagues, but also our interactions with our volunteers, our teaching artists, and you, our community partners. So our strategic plan is anchored by 4 priorities. The first, be a welcoming home for all. Welcoming and all, emphasis on welcoming and all. Bring the world, and if we were to distill that down, I would say that this strategic priority involves audience engagement. We want to expand our audience, but we also want to do a better job engaging our audience. We have a lot of tactics in our toolbox ready to pull out so that we can position ourselves as a welcoming home for all. Priority 2, bring the world to Iowa and Iowa to the world. We want to be a place where the world, the globe feels welcome, but we also want to bring Iowa out to the world. Des Moines, Iowa already sits at the nexus of the local, regional, and international. We want to realize this kind of vision with regard to art. Grow our revenue streams sustainably. We are ambitious, and to be ambitious, you need a reliable source of both contributed and earned revenue. A lot of ideas for that. And then finally, champion caretaking and stewardship. As a leader, a new leader, I have been thinking seriously about what it means to lead through the lens of caretaking, and caretaking is a kind of ethic that we apply to our relationships with our staff, our guests, but we're also bringing caretaking and stewardship, this philosophy, to bear on how we preserve our architecture and our collection long term. Much more to say about the strategic plan. I'm going to end with two other words, and they're words that I use often in my conversations with staff and the public. The first is cosmopolitanism, and this ethic is kind of baked into strategic priority number 2, bring the world to Iowa and bring Iowa to the world. We're inspired by this extraordinary book by scholar Anthony Appiah. Cosmopolitanism begins with the simple idea that in the human community, we need to develop habits of coexistence. Conversation in its older meaning of living together, of association. A world in which communities are neatly hived off from one another seems no longer a serious option. The model I'll be returning to is that of conversation. In particular, conversation between people from different ways of life. So when we say we want to bridge distances and differences, we are referring to cosmopolitanism in the way that Appiah frames it. Conversation between people who might disagree, who might come from different backgrounds, who might see things in different ways. And then finally, hospitality. I like to say to my team, hospitality is not just great customer service. We all hope we get great customer service when we go to a restaurant or a store, but hospitality is something else. You might have read this book. Many people on my staff now have copies of Will Guidar's book, Unreasonable Hospitality. I want to thank the director, Michael Eggle, for the Des Moines Metro Opera for introducing me to this book. We are thinking really seriously about hospitality. What does it mean to be a truly, authentically hospitable institution? And hospitality, I like to study the origins of words. I think my staff are probably getting tired of me doing this again and again. Hospitality is related to the Greek word xenia, which means the custom of offering protection and hospitality to strangers. In their original meaning, hospitality is something that you do for people that you do not know, who are unfamiliar to you, who might be hostile to you. So it's not something easy, it's actually work. It takes practice. So xenia is often translated as guest friendship. The opposite of xenia is xenophobia, hatred of the other. Xenia, hospitality. Hospitality derives more directly from the Latin hospice, meaning host, and hostess, meaning stranger. So I'm going to leave you with this thought bubble: hospitality, guest friendship. I welcome you to the Art Center, and I welcome your questions now.
Kelly, thank you for the great presentation, and we're so pleased to have you here in Des Moines and for all you do to make Des Moines a great place to live. So appreciate what you do for us. Okay, upcoming meetings. Next week we have Katie Abradovich, editor of the Iowa Capital Dispatch, another great opportunity to bring a guest. The next meeting is our speed networking meeting. So a little more about what that's going to be, and this is not a meeting to bring a guest. Okay, so this goes back to our strategic plan that we did this year, and one of our strategic pillars is relationship building within our club. And so this is an opportunity to build relationships. What we heard in the survey is that Thursday lunches are great, I enjoy the experience, as Caleb said, but I don't get to really get to know folks. So that's what we're gonna do on the 20th. The way it's gonna work, according to the bosses, which is Dave Busick and Kitty Morehouse. The way it's gonna work is that you will be assigned a table. And so I encourage you to bring business cards with you if you have those. And the goal will be to spend time with everybody at the table. So we'll get up and we'll move around at the table and able to have a 5-10 minute conversation versus just some niceties. Really get to know folks, and hopefully that will spur further conversations down the road for a cup of coffee or what have you. So we've got 14 new members so far this year, a number of other new folks. Let's integrate everybody together. So I hope to see all of you there on the 20th. And then on the 27th, another big day. We have the what has been called one of our greatest diplomats, Ambassador Ryan Crocker, recently the ambassador of Afghanistan, but in the past, Lebanon, Kuwait, Pakistan, Iraq, and on. Received the Presidential Medal of Freedom by President George Bush. Was Colin Powell's right-hand man regarding what's going on in the Middle East during the Iraq War, and wrote the report for him of what will happen if the country goes in and takes out Saddam Hussein. So this guy is unbelievable. It's a really gift to have him here. So, due to expected high interest, first of all, we want all of our members here. If we can get 170 of our members here, great. Second priority is prospective members. We can bring prospective members to come to that event. That would be great. And third, family and friends and so forth. So we're going to work that out through Kitty to try and orchestrate this thing, but we'd love to have this room totally filled all the way back. So plan on March 27th what you want to do, who you want to bring, and we'll work it out with you. Also building on the next opportunity to really get to know folks. Coming back to that relationship building as our morning fuel. The next one will be Tej Dewan on the 25th of this month, and he runs Plains Angels and has had a great career, and we'll all learn a lot from Tej. And then our own Helen Miller will be also the keynote of the next one on April 29th, and she recently has come out with a book that was published. So another great career and a great person to learn from. Lastly, don't forget to RSVP for President-elect Tim Lilowitz Spring Party. That's on March 27th as well in the evening. And again, leave you with our 3 strategic pillars. Thank you to all the guests that have come today. Great to have you here. And glad to officially welcome Caleb Bruce to our club. Make it a great Rotarian week, everybody. We are adjourned.